you positive heads out there. Brandon Beecham here. As always, thanks for tuning in to the Positive Head podcast. Today we have the dynamic duo, Kristen and Chris Butler, on the show. Kristen and Chris are the creators of powerofpositivity.com, which has garnered a multi-million person following on social media over the last 5 years. Together, they have a very inspiring story of how the power of positivity can create radical changes in a person's life circumstances. So I'm very excited for them to share their story with all of you here today. Hello, Kristen and Chris. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So to kind of start things off with the obvious question, how did you guys get started with the powerofpositivity.com and what's turned into quite the following? What inspired you guys?
Well, I think at first we were experiencing positive changes in our own life, and we kind of just one night got the idea to start a community on Facebook, just a Facebook page. There wasn't very many Facebook pages at the time.
Right.
And I mean, that's how it started at first. It was just a Facebook page.
Yeah, we were seeing some seriously good things happen in our life when we applied some pretty basic yet very misunderstood by the general public techniques. And as we saw these things consistently come through for us, as we practice the power of positivity, I guess we can call it. As we saw these things come through,
it's appropriate.
We just said, hey, we have just got to share our journey and the techniques and information that we've learned to help other people do the same.
And we were really just starting out. We hadn't really read any books on positive thinking. We were just starting out in the self-help realm, and we were like, wow, this is really just all about positive thinking. If you would wrap everything up into one big ball, love and peace, it's all just about positive thinking. So we started the page, and it was just a Facebook page. Was it 2009?
Yeah, middle of 2009 we got started.
And we were just putting out quotes and affirmations.
And the Facebook page is Power of Positivity as well, like the site, just to state that.
Right.
Correct.
And we started out with affirmations because that was what was first changing our life. We started with affirmations. I think that was the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. And then in 2012, I think, we started the website, and it was really just very basic, and we were just excited to kind of move forward. And now it's
turned into what it is today.
Yeah, every day we're posting new articles and lots of images and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, it has definitely grown since its conception.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's really interesting that you guys hadn't done a lot of reading or following of other positive material out there and just started on your own. That's really interesting. I always say for people, and of course people are like, oh yeah, being positive, yeah, I get it, but it really is a real thing. I mean, your external life circumstances are an immediate reflection of your internal state. And I always say, if I could just take someone, know nothing about them, but somehow analyze their thinking on a given day. Let's say they have, 5,300 thoughts in a day. I don't know if that's an accurate number. I just made that up. But, if I could look at those, and out of the 5,300, if 4,000 of them were positive, I know that they have a pretty positive life. If 4,000 of them are negative, I know that most of the time they're dealing with negative circumstances. So it really is that simple, and of course that difficult all at once. If you can just monitor your thinking, that is going to be reflected in your external, stimuli and circumstances. So yeah, I mean, was there an aha moment or event in either of your lives where you realized that being positive was really this kind of internal choice and not something that was necessarily dependent on external circumstances?
I think we just really saw consistency when we really were paying attention to our thought processes and the way we were thinking about money and friendships and circumstances. And we were starting to actually look at, I don't know.
We were picking things. We were kind of picking things apart and saying, okay, here's this thing that just came crashing down on us, because really in 2000 2008 and 2009, when the economy went down and things kind of took a crash here in the U.S., everything kind of crashed on us at the same time.
Yeah.
I was working in manufacturing, and that tanked, and I got laid off, and we were at our absolute heaviest weight, and nothing was really going good financially or anything like that.
And relationships were just okay. We were very depressed, and when we started to see the consistency of positive thinking, and our circumstances weren't necessarily changing dramatically, but we were seeing like small shifts. As we were taking small steps, then we were like, wow, this is really transforming our lives. And we were just getting started, and we were just so excited. Sometimes you just get into something and you're just really extra excited. So that was us when we started the page. We didn't even have a plan. We were just like, we're just going to help people.
Right. We just knew we had to share.
Yeah, I think that's a big one is, you've probably heard it said as well, you can get what you want by helping others to get what they want. Or, you always have the opportunity to give away to others what you want for yourself. And it sounds like you guys were tapping into that, and that helped to fuel you and probably inspire you to keep going. Having that outlet of just a simple Facebook page and seeing it, even if it was reaching just a small number of people at the time, that probably fueled you guys greatly, I would imagine.
Yeah, as it was helping us, we were helping others. We were like, oh, this is something we need today. Maybe someone else needs it. That's really how it started.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's so inspiring.
And I think maybe even by the, like how you said, give to receive, maybe even we were doing that maybe even a bit unknowingly.
Sure. Now, you referenced a minute ago being at your heaviest weight, and in your About section on your website, you said that you guys have collectively lost over 300 pounds. Tell me about that. That's a tremendous amount of weight to lose between two people.
Yeah, well, it really is, going from nearly half a ton collectively to under a quarter ton collective together it's a big step.
Yeah,
but
big difference.
What we learned is that when you open yourself up to the completely massive amount of knowledge available and really kind of blow the lid off of your own limited perspective, and you start applying things in your own way and small steps, not making anything dramatic, but looking to make something permanent and have a positive attitude throughout, you can really, achieve some amazing results.
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly an inspiration for anyone else out there trying to lose weight. And obviously it becomes a spiral. The heavier you get, I'm sure the more depressed you get, and the more depressed you get, the heavier you get. And it's just this downward spiral for you guys to, together, turn that completely around, is certainly inspiring. In addition to losing a tremendous amount of weight together, you also have a small child, correct? And you mentioned that, how old is she?
She is 3 years old.
And you were told that was considered unlikely as well. What can you tell me about that? Is this something that you attribute to your kind of turnaround moment?
Yeah, I think that when we realized that our thought processes had a lot to do with our, experiences, I just started affirming that I was going to get pregnant. And then we also looked into more natural ways and actually just getting ourselves healthy, because I decided that, going the medical route was not an option. And I'm one person that I don't like to hear just that this is going to be one way and that's all. I'm pretty open-minded. So
right.
It was only a few years later that we ended up conceiving naturally, and I actually gave birth to her naturally without any drugs. So it was exactly what I had pictured. It just took a little time to get there. But definitely positive thinking was thinking and positive action.
That's also such an inspiration for, I'm sure, some of our listeners who maybe have heard the same thing. So essentially, it was not likely that you would have a child. You basically, or you were told that it was not likely. You decided that wasn't a decision that worked for you, and you focused your attention and energy, on the exact opposite happening. And now we have a 3-year-old happy and healthy and present, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's very cool. Well, tell me guys a little bit. Now you've launched the page and site both about 5 years ago, correct? You mentioned prior to this interview that we had, that you had a pretty big spike in the last year. Tell me a little bit about that and what you attribute that to.
Yeah, actually, I was just reviewing my 2004 goals, and I was just laughing. I was so happy about it because I said that we were going to, in December of last year, 2013, we had just hit 100,000 fans on Facebook. And so I declared that in 2014, we would hit 1 million. And we were like, wow, that's kind of 10 times what we have. And it took us, 4 years to get to 100,000. So it seemed pretty unrealistic that would actually happen. And,
right.
But I was like, this is something I feel. So I put it out there. And then I also said that we would have 5,000 visitors to our website a day. And to me, 5,000, that's a large amount. So I was really excited to make that happen. And at the end of this month, what would we do?
The end of December.
3 million fans on Facebook.
Wow. So you tripled what your goal was.
Yeah. I mean, I really just kept my focal point on helping people. And I actually kind of forgot about the 1 million being my goal. Because that's why I was laughing, because I was kind of like, wow, I can't believe I said that. And now look, 3 times the amount that I set forth. And then in December, we had about 30,000 to 50,000 visitors a day. To the website.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really, really, really something.
And I think it's because, I made the goal, but then I didn't hold on to it. I kind of just let it go. And I
set the intention and released.
Yeah, I wasn't attached to it. It wasn't something that had to happen. It was just something that if it happened, cool, So it's kind of neat how that works. It's like magic almost, that what you desire can even come and exceed your expectation if you just kind of move forward in faith and service,
So absolutely. What would you say was the major cause? Was it just kind of the scale tipping principle where you had the 100,000 going into the year. You kept diligently posting, worthwhile things for people to share. Is that, pretty much what you would attribute the exponential growth to?
Yeah, I would say consistency. And I also think our vibration, I think as you continue to raise your vibration, that you get better expectations, better goals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no problem. That's Aurora. That's Aurora chiming in as well. I think that was a confirmation from her.
Yes.
Hi. So, would you say then that your recent success with the exponential growth came from just diligence, reposting? I mean, was there any techniques maybe that you could share with other people out there that are trying to grow in the same fashion that you've grown? I mean, was there something particular that you did, or was it just, that you reached that tipping point where the 100,000 really liked what you posted during this year and they kept sharing and of course helped you generate more likes? Or was there something specific that you did?
Well, as far as Facebook's concerned and the growth on that Facebook page, we never really lost consistency. We really made sure that we dedicated ourselves to it, regardless of whether or not it was making a dime. We weren't tying it to anything. We were just, consistently putting out. We knew that by consistently putting out and living basically a life of service with it, that
I think that's a key point.
Based on everything we had seen prior to that in the last 4 years before it even hit 100,000, we knew that by, giving our all, we were going to get it back. And we didn't need to put a time on it or a specific goal on it. We just knew that whatever we wanted, It was going to happen because we were putting it out there. And you know that when you put the positive energy out, it comes back to you in many ways. You know, you can't be the judge of how it comes back. Just knowing that it comes back is important. And, you know, not giving up. You know, if somebody tells you to go jump in a lake because they don't like your update because it offends them or something, you just say, well, you know, this message maybe wasn't meant for that person specifically, but, you know, you don't let things get to you. You don't let things bother you, no matter how low or high it is. You just stay consistent and make sure that you give your absolute best, no matter what that is.
Right. Yeah, I think that's really interesting then. So it's sounds like there was nothing, you know, as Kristen mentioned, she set the intention to grow it to 1 million plus in 2014, and then kind of release that expectation, not needing it to happen to be happy or feel fulfilled, and just moved into a place of, I want to continue to serve. I think it's the perfect formula of how to create something in your life. Setting the goals, setting the aim, then releasing that, not needing it to be happy. And from there, how can I serve more people? And I think, you've kind of laid out a formula that I found in my own life through much trial and error, mind you, to create things as well. It's once you kind of realize that you don't need a particular result to be happy, you prefer it, you are shooting for it, but you're not going to hang on to it so that if it doesn't, you're miserable and grumpy and all those things. And just continue doing what you do. And then lo and behold, you turn around and in your case, you triple that goal. And it's pretty exciting. It's a pretty exciting demonstration of the power of positivity.
Yes, it is.
Mind you, it took a lot of action.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's a key point that a lot of times people miss.
When you're really passionate about something and you just keep going no matter what, no matter what struggles come in the way or what you think's trying to defeat you, you just keep going and you just keep having your faith. I mean, then it.
Yeah. The law of attraction has the word attraction itself, action is a big part of that. So, it's not like just sit there and meditate and things are just going to pop up in front of you.
Fall from a hole in the ceiling.
Right. We're not there yet. But hey, you never know. Maybe 100 years from now, we'll consciously elevate to the next vibration.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually leads into a next question quite well. On your website about page, you say, we feel that our spiritual awakening calls forth our role as light workers who've been through darkness and are living the light. We're ready to help others and change the world in our ways. Tell me more about that. I mean, I think that's a very profound statement.
Well, it is. And it's a pretty big statement to make if you can't quite, say that your spiritual awakening has, kind of presented you with an opportunity to serve. Our spiritual awakening, that's all part of the extreme weight loss and the financial, the financial struggle and the inability to have a child for so long. And, all the challenges we were faced with almost in perfect succession, like dominoes, like, all the breakdowns that occur that make any normal person think, it's time to give up. It's just too hard. We kept that positive mindset and stayed grateful through the process, saw how it happened. And, it just made us, like we said earlier, it made us say, we have a job to do to spread this information and knowledge and experience to as many people as we possibly can, to show them that, hey, we went through depression, we went through anxiety, we went through bankruptcy, we went through weight loss, we went through almost not having a place to live. And if we can do this through these pretty simple steps, although they're commonly misunderstood, although we did this through these simple steps, you can do this and you can be presented with opportunities for action.
We're just average people in an average town of Pennsylvania. Doing extraordinary things, and we're no one special. We're just regular people, but we're just applying, techniques that we're learning and from our experience, and it's working. And so we just keep applying them and doing what we can to make ourselves better so that we can help more people.
Right.
Absolutely.
And in our own way, changing the world in our own way. What we really mean by that is, we're serving through experience. Like I said, we're saying we've been there. We understand,
which is key.
plight. Right. And we're not just preaching. We're not just saying, well, this is the word and this could work. We're saying we have been there, and yes, it does work.
And our spiritual awakening involved like extreme depression and anxiety. I mean, there was a point where I didn't want to really leave the house for months. And I think I needed that time to really understand myself and where I needed to be in the world. And so people who are having extreme difficulties, that's the time when you take that alone time and you start to get to know yourself and say, what am I doing here? And what can I do to help others? And during that time, we all can have a spiritual awakening and bring out our best self, really.
Absolutely. Now, as far as your spiritual awakening is concerned, did you have, tell me a little bit about your background as far as in a spiritual sense. Were you raised in a religious, either of you raised in religious families, or was this something that, in these last few years have this is information that you've just started to kind of, take on?
Both of us were raised in like a Christian environment, but not super religious or spiritual.
Yeah, okay. Not really. Not, I guess.
Kind of a bit of trauma in childhood. And I think when you go through that, then you find your own
connection
path and connection. Going within, it kind of makes you have to go within and you learn on your own, but you still find the same information, it's being brought to you just in a different way. So I think we kind of stumbled on everything almost in our own way, not to say that people didn't help us, they have, but a lot of times hardship helped us, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I have genetic like my family is religious, but I wasn't really raised in a religious environment per se, so.
Gotcha.
Right. Neither was I. We were connected. We had a belief and a faith,
Right.
but it wasn't overtly, church going 2 or 3 times a week. Like the Iron Man of religion.
Right. Like my upbringing, where I went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. My father door knocks to invite people to church every Saturday to this day. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it works. It works for him. It works for him. I always say I personally am spiritual, not religious. I feel like we have a direct connection to our divinity, and you don't need any conduit to access that. And that's where our paths certainly separate. But I think, everything has its context in place, and it certainly set a foundation for me personally, to lead to my own spiritual awakening. And so I'm just curious, as far as you guys, you also reference being light workers. So I'm assuming that your belief system is somewhere, in the same realm as mine, that you most likely created this situation for yourself prior to incarnating in the third dimension, where you would have these problems to overcome, all this weight to lose, so that you could play the role that you're now currently playing. I mean, is that something that you guys would agree with, that it's something that was predestined, so to speak?
Yeah, I think so. Everyone has their own independent beliefs, and we do feel that in a way you're presented in every life with challenges and lessons you need to learn to really bring yourself to a higher perspective and a new level of understanding of the way things work. And the weight loss, definitely. The experiences, definitely. There's got to be some sort of explanation as to why people are faced with certain experiences. So I could say that, we have, I guess you could call a universally spiritual belief system that, kind of allows us to connect all of those, world religions and all of those, faith-based systems that are essentially telling the same stories in a different way.
And you can find it in nature. You can find it going to church. You can find it meditating. However you connect to your source. And we have all kinds of backgrounds on the page, really. So we don't really promote one specific religion or belief.
Right. Yeah, I think you're definitely right. There's some truth in all the different teachings, and I think in some cases there might be some misconstrued or misinterpreted information, but there's truth in all of, truth hidden in all of it to some degree. And I think that's really important to be open to all different, all different modes of spirituality and religion in some way or form.
Most definitely.
So, Kristen, your cover photo on Facebook is a quote of yours, which I really love. It says, surround yourself with people who illuminate your path. Pretty simple, but profound as well. Is there any particular figure or figures, aside from Chris, of course, who goes without saying, that inspired that quote?
Not necessarily. I just really believe that it's important to surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you, on a daily basis. And, like they say, the 5 people you surround yourself with the most are who you become. So
Sure.
When I started to really notice that and realize that I didn't have to, be around specific people, I could choose and I could grow, and it's okay to do that. That really helped transform my life as well. And I think that in each stage of our life, we encounter people who are mentors to us, even without even realizing it. And they kind of extract, certain parts of us that make us better and help us to grow. So that quote kind of came from my belief system about that and the importance of who you surround yourself with and who you follow. I mean, I follow a lot of different people, so it wouldn't be anybody in specific, but I think it's very important.
Fair enough. How about you, Chris? Is there any particular mentor or figure that has helped to illuminate your path?
Well,
or maybe an author or someone like that.
Yeah.
I think really Stephen Edwards, I guess.
There have been a few. One in particular was a man named Stephen Edwards, who is an author and a speaker, and he had right about the time I think I was laid off from a machine shop, he had brought Kristen on to do some freelancing work for him, some website building stuff, and just the stuff he had to say was kind of one of our first peeks into, like a more sensible, concept of spirituality and introducing us to the metaphysics and how it's how science and spirit kind of, become one in a way, how they're ever growing closer as we continue to discover, what we're made of.
Absolutely.
So that really kind of started to blow the lid off. Every person you meet that becomes a mentor, it's almost like they open up the box that you're living inside of. And you come out of that little box you were living in, and the sun's all bright, and you're like, wow, look at this. Look at all this stuff that was outside of this box that I never knew about. And it just totally broadens your perspective. So, there are a bunch of people, whether it comes to your physical well-being, and following athletes, or, your well-being, following, different gurus out there, or spirituality and wellness experts. You can really find it from anywhere. But Stephen was definitely one.
I would say Stephen for me also. That was the start of it when I was working with him. And I would say Tyler Tolman also, if we're getting specific.
Yeah. When it comes to the physical body, Tyler Tolman is he's like a health pioneer. He really is just incredible with the knowledge he has of ancient wisdoms and how the body can just do amazing things to heal itself.
Does he have a particular book that you would recommend to people maybe out there who are going through something similar to what you guys did with, the weight loss and so forth? Or does he? I'm not familiar with him, so.
Honestly, he gives a lot of free, valuable information on his Facebook page, and then he also does like a juice fast group that's free, and he does have products that he sells. But just following him on his Facebook page, he really gives out a lot of valuable information that really goes against what we've always believed and been told. So about like extreme health, optimal health.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's someone that I will definitely check out as well. Can you spell his name?
Yeah. Tyler, Tyler, Tolman, Tolman.
Okay. That way people can easily find him. Very good. So as far as the website itself, how do you guys curate the content? I notice, some of the quotes you post on Facebook are your own personal quotes. When do you get inspiration? In the shower? Is it something you wake up in the middle of the night? Tell me a little bit about the site and how all that comes together.
As far as the site's content, we mainly deal in a lot of discussion in the community on Facebook and abroad. There's a lot of people that'll come up to you with questions or send you a message or leave a comment, giving their specific situation or whatever. And, that'll inspire us to say, okay, how could we take this situation, how can we take the situation of anxiety and stress and talk about how to either prevent that anxiety or distress or deal with it after it's already there? And what valuable tips and information from our own experience can we implement into this? And next thing you know, there's 1,000 words and, it's being seen by thousands and thousands of people.
Our community does really inspire us because for me, when someone says this can't happen and I know it can, I'm just like, wow, I really got to help this person. And then, actually we get almost the same type of questions and problems every day. So it's actually kind of easy when you have a large page like this to answer people's problems because everyone kind of has problems,
Yeah,
so,
and probably a lot of times the questions, 100 other people are thinking the same thing, so they're tuning into that same.
And then also, you were kind of laughing when you said in the shower, but you're right. Actually, it's like sometimes I'll be in the shower or taking a salt bath, and I'm like, oh wow, I have to write this down right now, and I do. Or if just kind of like in the car. Sometimes we do voice memos, and then a lot of times I'll just write it down on a notepad and then go back later and revise it and then post it. So
yeah, when it comes to the divine downloads, I guess you could call them. When it comes to that, it's not really like it's going to come at a time when you're ready. It's just, those ideas just come to you. And when they come, you write them down.
A lot of times we wouldn't, we didn't think about it, or we'd be like, oh, we'll remember it later. But you usually don't remember it later. So when that energy is flowing, just go with it, because you could write your best work or say your best, most profound statement if you're just riding right on that energy as it comes.
Yeah, and I like the way you put that, Chris, divine downloads. Is that what you feel is happening when you get that inspired thought or that inspired quote, that you do get a sense of tapping into something that is coming from something beyond yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about realizing that whether you're into believing it or not, there's something greater than me at work. And when this comes through, it's not even like you're thinking about that subject sometimes. Sometimes it just comes up, it'll just trigger a memory you had or something, and boom, there's the answer. It could be something you were thinking about for a long time. It could be something that's just completely random. Even like with the weight loss, it's just understanding that there's something helping you out this time. There's something helping you out when you believe in the ability to, receive your greatest life. That, there's that divine power that just kind of flows into you and through you. And if you allow it out of you, for others, it's like your light.
And sometimes we even just ask, If we're stuck on something, we just, ask and let it go, and it'll just pop up, the answer to it. So it's kind of, you just know that you're always being helped and you're always being guided.
Yeah, I've definitely found that in my own life. It's, when you're open to receiving information, letting it channel through you, so to speak. And I've heard it put before that all art, all creativity is a form of channeling. It's, it's opening that spigot, so to speak, so that you can, things can come through you from another, a higher source, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. And so I think divine downloads is a really good way to put it. And I think the more that you're open to that sort of thing happening, the more it happens. And it's just like anything else, what you perceive and believe to be, you create as such.
Oh, very well
right.
said.
And another thing too is with that, a lot of people kind of get it backwards. You always hear somebody say, well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yep.
But why not, believe it to receive it, maybe you'll receive it when you believe it first.
Yep. I actually, I've had quite a few interesting synchronicities with license plates and so forth. And one that I came up with, maybe it was a divine download, a few weeks ago, where I was like, oh, what would be a good one is be it to see it, BITC, and it really is. It's most people, do something like work in order to have something like money, in order to be something like happy, when it actually works the opposite way. Just like, you guys just suggested, you be something like happy, you find yourself then doing and having the money or the things that would bring that happiness. So it's the exact opposite of the way we've been taught, but it's, if you can just go within and drum up that feeling, regardless of what's happening externally, you'll see those external things shift. And, don't take my word for it. Don't take, Kristen and Chris's word for it. Try it, and it's pretty inspiring when you see it working.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of like building the momentum. And at first, you just have a little bit of momentum, but as you keep going and you keep believing, it just gets easier and easier and better and better. And people say,
it becomes your way of life.
Yeah, and they say, oh, the better it gets, the better it gets. It's not really like that. But truly, it doesn't mean life's perfect, but it means that it makes things easier. Difficulties are much easier because you can always find a solution, and solutions can pop up much faster, almost instantly sometimes. So,
sure.
There's less room for worry or stress because you've got that momentum behind you.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into what I was going to bring up next. Is one of the quotes that I really liked that I saw Chris post was, negative experience is only a positive experience in need of translation. That is a wonderful quote, Chris. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like when you have an experience, it is the experience. That's all it is. So when you have a great experience, you could say, oh, well, that was great, but this happened, and then you could go and focus on the lack. Well, the same thing happens for an experience that may seem negative. It may say, oh, well, this was terrible, but then you could do the flip on it, and you could say, well, that was terrible, but here's what I learned, or here's what I could do next time, or here's sometimes you have to figure out what you don't want so you know what you do want, and it's all about finding that positive in no matter what the case. And when you find that positive and you focus on that and you make room for that, the negative's not going to be something to necessarily run from, but something to understand and something to work through within yourself, get to the root of that problem or that cycle and release that. And, like I said, translate it into something positive and let it grow from there, give it a fertile ground.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always say that lump of coal is always a diamond waiting to be seen from the right angle. So yeah. I really resonated strongly with this quote. and I will definitely reuse it with your permission. It's a really good one because it just needs the proper translation. It's all in how you're looking at things. We're making it all up anyway, so you might as well look at it and make up a way that you can see benefit in it, and then it becomes a game. Yep, here's a negative experience. Okay, how do I look at it through these positive tinted glasses? Through this lens, and it becomes fun. And well, not every negative experience is fun, but once you start seeing the positive in it, it takes the sting out of it. And next thing you know, by changing your perspective on it, it changes the impact that it has. And you can see some truly miraculous things when you start experimenting with this approach.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, as I always like to do, kind of get an insight if there's been any positive paranormal stories that either of you have had, what I like to call real magic. We hear so much about negative paranormal stuff. I like to, in my own life, as you guys probably have heard me talk a little bit about on any of my other podcasts, I've had quite a few really inspiring synchronicities or stories of, like I said, I call real magic. Any sort of story that you guys can share that's helped guide you to where you're at today or in general?
Let's see. There's so many little synchronicities that we have every day, but something profound. I would say experiencing the 11:11 awakening. Have you heard about that before?
Yes, I am familiar. Yes.
It happened when I was about 16, and my family, they just thought I was crazy. And I even thought wow, this is
Can you elaborate a little bit with for those who may not be familiar with what you're talking about?
So I was just randomly seeing 11:11 or 7:11, but I was just seeing 11s all the time. I would fall asleep, and if I would wake up, I'd look at the clock and it would be 10:11 or 11:11. And the 11s were just popping up, on receipts. There would be 11s. And I just thought, wow, everything, almost on a daily basis, I was seeing the 11s. And it wasn't until I was about 21, maybe. I'm 30 now. So
okay.
Let's see, it was about 21, I think. When I started reading about the 11:11 awakening, and it was actually happening to a lot of people. And it's kind of like source just confirming that you're on the right path.
Right.
Divine energy saying, yeah, keep going. It's like a confirmation. For some people, they believe different things, but that's what I see it as. And when I met Chris, his birthday was June 11th. And that was kind of neat. And there's just little things throughout my life that, a lot of times I really will see the clock at 11:11 and then 1:11 and just random things all the time with 11. So it's kind of really neat because you see divine power at work just throughout your daily life, feels good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, it's, I've had a few pretty jarring, very cool, instances happen. But I think for a lot of people, it's lots of little synchronicities. And the more you kind of start seeing the synchronicities, the more that they happen. Great example. It's not profound, but it's a synchronicity. It's, when we first got on this podcast, before we started recording and actually doing the interview, first thing out of Chris's mouth was something about dog barking. I forget exactly what you said, Chris, but I had just typed to someone, don't get mad at this person. It's the same as getting mad at a dog barking. It's just part of their nature, right? And literally, I text that. We set this call up, and the first thing out of Chris's mouth is something about the dog barking. I'm like, oh, that's so funny, And I see those sorts of things all the time, and I think you're right when you say they're just little confirmations. They're not always these groundbreaking, earth-shattering things, although those sorts of experiences can happen. A lot of times it's just little things that you'll notice, that are synchronicities, and they seem to be increasing, at least in my own world, a lot, where I have, many a day. Now, and they don't really get quite the same, excitement that I used to get from them. It's like, oh, there's another synchronicity. There's, you know what I mean? So,
how about
you?
Little things that make you smile, and then you tell other people that don't really know anything about synchronicities, and they think, well, I'm a little crazy.
Right, and I know
it really does happen.
And I noticed too, like you said, there's so many little things that go on that it's almost hard to just kind of pinpoint one exactly that we'd really love to just talk about. But one thing is in common with all of them is that if you're faced with a challenge or something like that, and you can consciously say to yourself, okay, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to get through this. Let's find a solution. 10 times out of 10, something will happen that will provide you with an opportunity to make that solution, just it just pops out of nowhere. You could be at an airport and, be way behind on your flight and say, oh, I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to make it. I'm going to miss my flight. Or you could say, okay, I'm running a little bit behind. Something good's going to happen. It's going to be fine. And next thing you know, one of those people on the golf carts comes up and pulls right up next to you and offers you a ride.
Right.
It's the thing. It's the little things that just happen out of nowhere. Or somebody calls you, you say, well, I need this to happen. Or I need to buy a new stove. And then 2 days later, you find a stove for a really amazing price that you would have never seen before, ever. And you're like, wow.
The talking to people thing is profound because we do that all the time. We'll just think of someone and they'll send us a message or they'll call, and it happens every day.
Just happened yesterday.
It's like we're all intertwined and we're all interconnected. And even with Chris and I, I'll be thinking of something and then he'll talk about that topic. And I'm like, wow, I was just thinking that. I didn't even say anything to you. And it's just really neat. You're like, that just proves that we're all connected and our thoughts really affect our outer world, because otherwise, how would you see those synchronicities?
Yeah, and I think you touched on an interesting point earlier for people who are maybe skeptical about this sort of thing. When you start looking at science and quantum entanglement and, what quantum physics is having to say about these sorts of phenomenon, science is looking more and more like, spirituality every single day, because it really gives the explanation as to why these things work that way. And it's, once again, the more you're open to it, the more, once you start playing with spirit and saying, hey, I want some sort of experience on this level, I found we'll have it. And it's pretty exciting, whether small or big, it definitely lets you know that you're, tied into something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, and for people that are new to this, I would recommend What the Bleep,
What the Bleep Do We Know, the movie, documentary.
Yeah, and they have different stages. So there's a beginner, and then there's a level, 3 or 4 or 5, and you can keep going down the rabbit hole, and it's more and more detailed.
Yeah.
It's very
that's one
of my favorites.
Yeah, it's really great because it explains, the quantum world and a way and a method that people can really grasp onto who maybe aren't very familiar with the subject matter.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you had mentioned also you guys are working on a book. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are. We're in the early stages of creating a book, and we probably would expect it to be out sometime either late this year or next year.
Exciting. Do you have a title, working title yet, or anything that you want to share about it, or is it still pretty hush hush at this point? What you're going to be doing?
Top secret FBI.
I figured.
But it'll definitely pick you up. That's for sure. It's going to be it's really going to be an amazing book. It's essentially, it's not so much personal from our perspective. It's more narrative in a way that's going to help people understand that it's not jumping from A to Z. It's going through the entire alphabet one letter at a time, taking small measurable steps, just like in anything, even like in business, taking small measurable steps, making small shifts in your daily routine and your daily practices to see some really huge changes in your life. And, to essentially, in a spiritual sense, I guess you could say, a way to turn the light on and shine it outward. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to read it. So that sounds very, very inspiring, like everything that you guys do. So that's, doesn't come as any great surprise to myself or anyone else, I'm sure. Let me ask you guys this. Have you noticed in the 5 years that you've been doing this, obviously you've grown by leaps and bounds, and just the last year alone, many fold. Have you noticed a shift in planetary consciousness over that time period, over the 5 years?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There's a study that went on, and I believe it was, don't quote me on this one, but I believe it was at Fordham University or Princeton University. And it was basically, a study on what group meditation could do. With crime. So everybody, I think it was 7,000 or 70,000, a large amount of people all meditated at once on peace. And, that crime rate on that day during that time dropped dramatically. So, when we started in 2009, there really weren't positive pages or anything like that on Facebook. Not saying, that there weren't already a lot of efforts underway.
I think Facebook just launched pages.
Yeah, Facebook.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
And I love social media, and I had a social media background. So I was like, oh, let's just make this community. Let's just start something. And I do remember Jesus Daily was around. Remember Jesus Daily?
But, yeah, I think so.
I think it had just launched really pages. So,
cool.
So anyways, so as far as the noticing a shift in planetary consciousness, as we grew, everything around us that we saw became more and more in line with that. And, I guess you could call that a personal experience thing, where this is your quote unquote vibration. So this is what you're seeing. But since we've been working on this together, we've noticed so many more people sharing updates about being positive and, having a positive mindset and talking about gratitude. And
there's thousands of pages really and websites now.
Yeah. And thousands of pages and websites have sprouted up to really kind of go through the same channel of trying to help people have a more positive and grateful outlook. I understand that you could say, oh, well, within the past 5 years, look at the world news on CNN and see how much worse it's gotten. But, from our perspective and from the perspective of quantum physics, when you look at how vibrations change, you'll notice a pattern. And as that frequency increases between that pattern and the next frequency, what happens? It's total chaos. It's absolutely everything's crazy, the whole thing. Right. And then as it gets to that next frequency, everything comes back into form and you see that entirely new shape. So we're kind of moving, if from my perspective and from Kristen's perspective, we found that we're kind of moving into a better place. But in order to do that, sometimes things happen. And maybe that's where we're at right now. But
we follow David Wilcock on Gaia TV, and he does say that we're kind of moving into the fourth dimension. And I do believe that, because I do see a lot more peace in the world, and even the people are happier, and
a lot more individual action is happening. And I think that's
more health conscious, healthy conscious choices.
You're right.
I mean, we're vegans, and we see like a lot more vegan options in the stores, and there's more self-help products.
There's an expansion of good in all mind, body, spirit. Now compared to 10 years ago, there's a lot more healthy food options. You see a lot more government policy that's banning or restricting things that are harming you.
I mean, you saw gay marriage. And you see bills being passed that are for betterment of society. So I mean, people can sit and name the problems all day long, but I mean, I really believe that we are making that shift. It's just going to take time, and the world just needs all of us to come together and each of us make a difference,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important what you're kind of getting at, and that is, people, there's certainly plenty to focus on, but if you look at it, the world is safer now than it's ever been. And I think focusing once again to the kind of the underlying theme of this whole conversation, in a lot of my conversations, it's all about what you focus on. Mother Teresa, when asked, you guys may have heard this, when asked to march against the war in Vietnam, she said, I'll never do that, but when you have a march for peace, I'll be there. And why? Because she understands, what you resist, you give energy to. It persists. What before something and against nothing, so to speak. And I think if we can all focus on, there's a ton of healthy changes, from diet to policies, and so I was just curious what you guys' take was, having sort of, I would say your success in the last year is a real interesting marker to show, you're at 100,000 people following you and you're over 3 million now. So that's a big jump in a year. And if that's indicative of what's going on planetary wide, it's pretty exciting times we're living in.
Yeah.
And with
really
the toddler
is.
at that, I think children bring out the inner child in yourself. It makes life easier, I think. Harder, but easier at the same time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sure.
Children can teach you a lot about
Yeah.
planetary consciousness and where you have the potential to go.
Right. And
Some of these children now, the things coming out of their mouths too, it's just like, okay, you're not 3 years old or 4 years old, or like you've got some wisdom coming through you that's coming from some other source.
no, you're right. And she teaches us things every day. And I would definitely contribute it to that.
And not only, about reflecting on yourself and seeing the world from a different perspective that's not programmed by society yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So what are you guys' future plans with Power of Positivity? I mean, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I think our goal is really to build a community on the website. Our fans like going to the website and reading our articles, and many people have said that they would love to see forums or user profiles. So we do have user profiles, but there's not very much functionality at the moment. So we're going to continue to expand that. So maybe users can write their own blogs and share their own wisdom. And
to create really an environment where people can come and focus solely on the positive parts of life and how to be more positive, how to live that more any tips or information people have to discuss and share about. We want that, focus to be solely on the good and heading toward the good. Like you said earlier, it doesn't really matter what you focus on. What you focus on, you feed, period.
Right.
So, if you're focusing on, ending racism, or you're focusing on ending the war, it's just going to focus on racism or war. That's it. But if you focus on accepting every type of beautiful person in the world into your life and treating them, I guess you could call this cliche, but treating them like your brothers and sisters, and understanding that peace can be attained among everyone, and you don't have to, follow any type of, information that, tells you to separate yourself from anyone. There's no reason for that.
So I think you're trying to say that we really want to collaborate with more professionals that are in this field and get them to be a part of the mission, and possibly collaborate with other pages and other websites to do something much bigger than what we're doing now.
Right. Anything we can do really to just to shine that light in the directions that, the directions that need it the most. And, continue.
We've talked about, we're working on the book. We've talked about, videos or even an event, collaborating with people for a large event in the future.
Oh, that'd be great.
So, so that's all in the future. And right now we're just kind of working on building the community and bringing everybody together more on the website.
Yeah, but big things nonetheless. That's for certain.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I fully agree. The sum is typically greater than the equal parts, especially when you get a lot of positive people together. So certainly, I certainly am enjoying this collaboration with you guys, and perhaps there will be more of that in the future in some way.
Definitely.
All right, sounds great.
Okay, well, last thing I'm going to ask you guys in 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life?
Oh, that's a lofty question for a 60-second reply.
Exactly the point.
So I'm going to let Kristen go first.
No, you go.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll go first. To me, the meaning of life is to, discover what you are who you are. Find out what you were put here to do. And I know that really seems like, oh, wow, how am I just going to find out what I was put here to do? But, find out what your strengths are. Go in that direction. You were given strengths and abilities and things all for a reason. The more you fall in line with your true authentic self, the more you're going to discover, what your mission here is. Discover that mission. Take that mission and go as far with it as you possibly can. Don't tie it to the physical or material part of the world or the gratification part. Just follow that passion. Serve. Serving is a huge, huge, huge part of life. And understand that everything you put out into this world is going to have an effect on the collective consciousness of the planet.
Absolutely.
So, think positive, serve, find your passion, live it, and, help spread that into others. Really.
Awesome. Well, I think that was more than 60 seconds, but it was quite good. So we'll give you a pass on this one.
Yeah.
All right.
Basically, go within, find your purpose, and live your passion. Smile.
Awesome.
That's what I say.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you tonight, and I hope you out there listening have enjoyed tonight's podcast. Until next time, remember, as long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Be well, everyone.